Good morning, everybody. Betting for breakfast, college football, week 7, powered by the Sharp app, the premier application for sports gambling. Make sure you hop on there, download the app. We got odds comparison. We got bet tracking. You can hold yourself accountable. So let's pour our coffee and find some winners. I'm Mark Drumheller. I'm here with Dave Gleckner. Dave, chaos in college football last week. Down goes Bama. The Tide rolls down to number 5. Iowa, Cincinnati sneak into 2 and 3. I am here for all the chaos. I absolutely love it. How are you feeling going into week 7?
Don't forget Oklahoma. They shouldn't be undefeated too. They're trash. Now they have to bench their quarterback in the middle of a season when they're a top 5-6 team. It's complete chaos. I love it. College football is always better when you bring these different teams in. I don't need Clemson every year. I don't need Bama every year. Clemson's done. We know that. But it's pretty cool that, we're going to see some new blood in there. And I'm here for it. I'm not convinced Iowa is a team that should represent the college football in the playoffs. But if they keep winning, they're going to get there, obviously. Cincinnati's really making a good case. It's awesome. I just love it.
Yeah, it really is. Cincinnati, their resume is not going to be that strong, but they should win out. I mean, we never know what's going to happen week to week. And, Oklahoma, Rattler's done. They're going to move on to Caleb Williams. I think it gives them new life. And I think that they're going to be a very interesting team to watch going forward, because if they can win out, again, schedule not that tough, Big 12 isn't what we thought it'd be going into the season. They're probably going to get one of the bids. And maybe Rattler was the problem all along. We are going to find out. But we have a tremendous show lined up today. We got Rachael Van Oranje from Houston Sports Show and ESPN 97.5. Can't wait to have her come on. We're going to talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. Big matchup today with the Kentucky Wildcats. And, of course, we have all our best bets today lined up for that one. So I can't wait for today. It's going to be an incredible show and an incredible weekend of college football, Dave. I woke up this morning, I fired up the Sharp app, and I chose violence. I got 6 plays out there for everybody, and I just think there's so much value on the board this week. I cannot wait to get into it.
There is. I know when I texted you early this morning, I think my list was 7 or 8. I pared it down, obviously. This week, I just feel, like you said, a lot of value, a lot of good matchups on the board that really – you can have a case both ways, but there's some that really stick out, and you're like, why is it this way? And I know we'll get into some of those in our favorites coming up. But today, you might not have the big name matchups. You might not have the marquees. Georgia, Kentucky is great. Don't get me wrong. Tonight, Tennessee, Ole Miss. But you have a lot of really, really good matchups. And that's what brings college football right to the prime on these Saturdays.
Yeah, I can't wait to give some winners today, man. It's been a rough week for me. I'm not going to lie to you. 0-2 so far this week. These weekdays games have not been good to me, but I'm going to stick to the process. Listen, I just feel like I'm on the wrong side of variance. No real way for me to predict that App State is going to rush for 2.6 yards per carry against the Raging Cajuns. That game I thought was completely disgusting. And then last night, it got even worse. I'm on North Texas plus 11, Dave. They had 17 penalties. They had 8 penalties in the first quarter, 3 penalties on third down that extended drives that ended up leading to touchdowns. Marshall went on to steamroll them 42-7 in the first half and got the cover easily. That was a game that, hey, I guess I got it wrong, right? I'm on the wrong side of it, but there is no way for me to handicap a team getting 17 penalties, 8 in the first quarter, burying themselves in the ballgame.
No, there's no way. And, hey, sometimes you take a couple punches, but you don't get knocked down, and that's what we're looking at today. I did like the Cuse last night. Didn't push it out there on Twitter. And Clemson is just a auto fade for me right now. I know that can get dangerous, but when you can't score more than 20 points against any D1 team, and that is the case with Clemson, how can you cover 14-point spreads? So, we'll see. We got a good Saturday lined up. I went 3-1 last week. The only one was the West Virginia, and look, I took that on my chin a little bit. Some teams give up. I look at LSU a little bit. West Virginia's heading down that path. They just got physically manhandled. They were just some teams you can't predict those either. So it's stay away from West Virginia for me the rest of the year for sure after seeing their effort last week.
Yeah, and I think Clemson, you spoke about Clemson earlier. We all saw them last night. I think this is a tremendous lesson for sports bettors in general, not only just in college football. And it's when teams show you who they are, you have to believe it. We've seen the market very, very slow to adjust to Clemson and just how poor they are offensively, continuing to lay points, continuing to lay double-digit spreads against the weak ACC. And I get it, the conference is weak, but so is Clemson. Newsflash. You know what I mean? They are not very good. And Dabo Swinney seems reluctant to make any significant change to the offense. Yes, I'm talking about the quarterback. And they continue to just bankrupt the bettors. 0-6 or 0-7 against the spread. However many games they played, they have not covered. So we've continued to see that on a weekly basis with Clemson. And I think that's a great lesson for everybody who's gambling. Like when a team shows you who they are, when they're sitting there and letting screaming to you week after week, this is what I am. Listen, don't just go by the emblem on the helmet, man. You got to look into the stats. You got to see where they're struggling, see if they can turn it around. And if they don't make any significant changes, they're not going to turn it around. It's that simple. The market has to adjust or you have to take advantage.
Great point. They can turn it around. But if they're just going to keep going out there and doing the same thing, what would Einstein say? Definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. And that's what Clemson feels like they're doing. They think they're just better and we'll get it fixed with the same pieces. And as long as you don't fix really what the root of the problem is, and it is offensively right now, it's going to be tough for them. Now, we'll see if Vegas adjusts. That's going to be the hard point. But right now, for me, it's an auto fade or it's an auto stay away.
All right, well, let's make this a winning Saturday, Dave. That's what we're all about. That's what the people are here for. We want to get some winners. We want to get on the right track. So I'm going to lead things off with you. Let's talk a little bit about Louisiana Tech coming off a bye, after playing a tough NC State team, a team that I was very high on, had the win total over on coming into the season. Now they're laying 6.5 points at UTEP. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, Louisiana Tech, they're 2-3 this year. UTEP's 5-1. UTEP's kind of a big story. We know they've been kind of doormats in college football for quite some time, and to be out to 5-1 is pretty impressive. Louisiana Tech, on the other hand, though, they've played some good teams. Lost to Mississippi State 35-34 when they were up 34-21. They lost, you mentioned it, NC State 34-27 the other week, and they had the ball down near the goal line and threw an interception. They had a very good chance to come away with an upset. That was off NC State coming off the big Clemson win. So we see those typical letdowns. I do like Louisiana Tech, though. I like quarterback Austin Kendall. He started the last 4 games. Since he started, they've averaged over 30 points a game, scored 27 or more in every one of them. They had their one conference game against the Mean Green, and where they just won, I think it was 24-10. That was without Kendall. Since he's been back, he's ripping it around. He's also a dual threat. He's a big rusher for that team. And that's where I think they present problems for UTEP. UTEP, if you look at their advanced numbers, they're pretty good on defense. I think they average 17 points per game. They're only allowing 216 yards per game in the passing game. But a lot of that's fool's gold in who they played. The one team they played all year that is a viable D1 team was Boise State. They lost by 41. And that's where I think we come into play tonight. I think this is a get-well game for Louisiana Tech. I think going down to UTEP, I think it's significant. You see the number at 6.5. When you look at SP+, La Tech's actually the worst team according to SP+, and they're favored by 6.5. I think we all know that eye test has to come into play here a little bit. I think Vegas knows that. Louisiana Tech can move the ball. They can throw the ball, like we said. And I think they do that well against UTEP. UTEP struggles offensively, and that's where I think it's a battle of matchups, right? And in this matchup, I really think Louisiana Tech, you're getting good value under the key number 7. I think they go down and win by 2 touchdowns. I'll take Louisiana Tech as one of my plays this week, -6.5. Night game, too. Always fun to play a late game. Use that money you build up during the day. Play it smartly. Don't roll it all in, but it'll be nice to close out with a winner and wake up Sunday with some plus money.
Absolutely. Cash it in, man. That's what we're all about. And Louisiana Tech, I like it on the road, laying the number, but UTEP is a team that a lot of people were on because they felt like initially coming into the season, they were undervalued, right? So then you see that come to fruition. You see them outperform expectations, and then the market adjusts, and then sometimes it adjusts too much. You hop on the other side of Louisiana Tech. I think it's a great bet today. So one winner we're going to start off, for the people. But let's talk about our big matchup today. We have Rachael Van Oranje joining us today to talk about Georgia and Kentucky. So I want to get into that matchup right now, Dave. That is the game that I have my eye on. Georgia, we know their story, right? This game is a very big number, opened at 23.5, total at 44.5. Georgia 5-1 against the spread. You look at the metrics, Dave, and these teams seem pretty even on the surface. But, my key going into this game is I think Georgia, with their defense and how they play and their run game and how suffocating they can be on defense, it just seems to me that like Kentucky is like a Georgia light, for example. Like they're just kind of like a team that is, almost like not quite on Georgia's status, but tries to win the same way. And I think that could be a dangerous formula. If you're trying to take a dog with points, they have to have a path to score. And I'm not sure Kentucky has it in this matchup.
Yeah, I agree. I think, great point, because I was coming up with similar, styles make matchups. And in this case, their two styles are pretty similar in how they want to attack teams and play. Stoops is, he from Kentucky, wants to play that fast, aggressive defensive style, doesn't obviously have the athletes that Georgia has. They have been, surprisingly pretty good on offense. So last week they dominated LSU. I think they scored on 4 straight possessions, mainly physically dominating LSU. Again, in the running game, similar to how Georgia wants to do it. Pound it, then play great defense. And yeah, I think that's a tough matchup for, going to a place in Georgia, a tough place to play, a team that's, had a couple layups coming in. And now they're looking at a 6-0 team, so they know, Georgia knows they have to get up for this game. I've seen some numbers that started, 23, 24 area. It's down to 21.5, so there's definitely money coming in on Kentucky. But I just feel the styles, the matchups, I think it's going to be hard for Kentucky to score more than 10, 14 points in this game. And if you're looking at it that way with an over-under of 42, my lean's to the number one team in the country right now.
I think so, too. And, let's bring on our guest, Rachael Van Oranje from the Houston Sports Show down in Houston, doing great things. And she is on 97.5 ESPN as well on Sunday mornings. And I'm sure that she was up late last night watching her Houston Astros as well take game 1 of that series. Rachael, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure. Appreciate it. And yes, I was very late watching the Astros and then, of course, celebrating. Sweating that one out a little bit towards the very end, but it's a good game. Good game. Happy for the Astros.
I love Correa, point to the wrist. It's his time. That was great. Yeah. I got the orange glasses on for you. Astros, I love it. Everyone hates them. I don't. I want to see them win this thing. I think it'll be great for baseball.
Tell me you're a Yankees fan. Are you?
No, Phillies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Philly. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just as crazy fan base. But no, I just think it's hilarious how last night I see Yankees fans all over Twitter giving Correa all the props in the world. And I'm like, funny. The timing on this is really funny. Suddenly you're all Carlos Correa fans. I wonder why.
They're playing the Red Sox. That's why.
Is that why?
Yes.
Because he's about to be a free agent.
They might be opening up that checkbook as well. I think that has a lot to do with it too.
Yeah, it could be. But they hate the Red Sox. Hate them.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. But let's get into Georgia and Kentucky, right? This is the game everyone wants to know about. Rachael, 2 weeks ago we sat on this show and we talked about how Georgia had value at plus, 250, 225, the odds in winning the national championship. And I think that they have an opportunity now, if they can run the table, to really knock Alabama out of the playoffs if they can win in that SEC championship. But they have to get there. They have to win out, and that's really going to be the key if they want to avoid having to play Alabama, a second time in the playoffs. But when I see this matchup today, I just see a Kentucky team that tries to win the same way that Georgia wins, but Georgia's just much better at it. You look at the Georgia defense, incredible against the run, only allows a 25% success rate. They only average letting teams across the 52.5 times per game, which is just ridiculous. Like, I think the Georgia defense has been incredible. It's been the story, the best defense in college football by far. Iowa fans will disagree, but I saw Sean Clifford tear you up in the first half last week. But Georgia, I think, is going to steamroll today. I think when you have two teams and they play the same way, there's not a path for the underdog to have much success. How are you feeling going into today's matchup as a Georgia fan? And do you see it the same way, or am I missing something? Maybe I'm undervaluing Kentucky.
No, and I know that Kentucky fans, I've seen what they're saying, and I've read some articles, and I know that they don't feel like they're the underdog. They don't feel like they're a cute story, so to speak. But I feel like Kentucky's a cute story, and maybe that's just a bias here. I don't know, but when's the last time Kentucky was really relevant? So it's just hard for me to buy into them right now. Just like it was a week ago, it was hard for me to buy into Arkansas, or 2 weeks ago. I just don't. Sorry, Kentucky. They're not scared of you. Maybe if it were playing in Kentucky, might make a little bit more of a difference here, but you're coming to Athens, Georgia, where I think you've won like 11 games historically over like 73, 74 matchups. It's just not going to happen. And I don't think that, but there's enough hype behind Kentucky right now that it's not possible, I think, for Georgia to be in a trap game, you know what I'm saying? Or overlook them, for lack of a better word. So I think they're going to get up for this game. I think it's going to be fine. And Georgia's going to come out with the win. I took the over on the point total last night. I think it was 44 and a half.
Yep.
Somewhere. Yeah. I took the over. I just think 44 is low. I think Georgia could, do 3/4 of that on their own. So
I'll answer the last time Kentucky was relevant question. And for me, it was when they had Jared Lorenzen. Remember that dude?
Yes.
He was like 300 pounds. Rest in peace. Yes, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
In the NFL, big dude, at quarterback. But they were relevant for all the wrong reasons. It wasn't because they were good at football. They were just playing a big offensive lineman at quarterback. So yeah, you're right. I think Kentucky. They've been on the up and up. They played well last year, surprised some teams. Thought that was a little bit of the COVID situation, but they are getting more talent there. They're playing better. I think it's realistic they could finish second in the SEC East now, but today it's a different monster. I'm with you. I think, Will Levis hasn't shown much. He's a Penn State transfer, I think, too, from 180 yards in the air. You're not going to get that done. You're not going to rely on a running game against Georgia. I really think Kentucky struggles to score in this game. So you're going to need those 2/3 of the way with Georgia, but I think you can get there. I do.
Yeah,
I think it's very similar to how the game's going to play out against Arkansas. Like, I think that's the comp. Rachel, would you agree? Like, I think Arkansas is probably a good comp to Kentucky as far as, they want to win with defense, up front, and they're just going to get physically overmatched by Georgia.
Yeah, they're definitely going to get overmatched, in my opinion. And, you're talking about the passing ability of Kentucky's quarterback. I feel like if there is a way, I guess if you had to say Georgia's defense had a weakness, which I really don't feel like there is one, but if there is, it might be the secondary.
I agree.
It's definitely not the front seven, right? So if I'm game planning, if I'm Kentucky, I think that the way for me to win this is through the passing game, but that I just can't see. I can't see that happening. Like, they're probably going to just try to run the ball because that's what they're really good at. And wasn't there a game earlier this year where they only had less than 150 passing yards or less than 120 passing yards in a game earlier this year? Like, it's just not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it against Georgia. So great story for Kentucky, but I think it ends today.
Yeah, Rachel, real quick, here's my take on Georgia. Like, I just think they're that dominating physical team, and I really think they have a chance to win the whole thing this year. But I think styles make fights, and we see that all the time in college football. And I think if they are going to struggle, it's going to be against a team that has an explosive offense that can actually score, put points, and make them kind of change their game script, right? Make them change how they want to play. But when I look at the top teams in college football, I'm not sure if a team's there that's going to be in the playoffs that's going to fit that mold. Is there any team out there that you think, or what team do you think is going to give Georgia the biggest struggle this year? Do you think it's going to be Alabama, or do you think it could be somebody else?
Yeah, it's absolutely Alabama. And, I never would have thought in a million years that they would lose last week to A&M. That just blew my mind.
I lost some money. My bank account agrees with you.
Oh, sorry about that. But yeah, no, it's got to be Alabama. And I'm just going to always and forever, that's going to be who I believe. Anytime a Georgia team is good until I'm proven otherwise. That's been the big hurdle for Kirby Smart. And I mean, honestly, it's been the big hurdle for everyone. I don't care where you are, who you are. You're getting over Alabama. I mean, even if you're not in the SEC, you're like, okay, well, if I'm a contender this year, I've at least got to try to fathom a way that I have to get over Bama, right? Because they're going to be there at the end of the day. Nick Saban is going to have his team there at the end of the day. And that's, they might have to face them twice. I don't know. I don't know. I could see a world where there's an SEC championship and they still both get in. Because before Alabama lost last week, it was really, I was telling everybody going on my radio show, I'm like, it is the haves and the have-nots this year, maybe more than ever. I'm like, it's Georgia and it's Alabama and then it's everyone else. Like you could honestly, I literally said this on my TV show last week. I said, you could just cancel the playoffs this year. Just cancel them. Make Georgia and Alabama face each other 3 times and do a best out of 3. Because that's the championship right there. And I got a lot of flack for that. And of course, I'm halfway being facetious, I guess. But no, yeah, Alabama. It's Bama.
For me, it's Ohio State. I'm just going to put a pause out there. If they get there, the way C.J. Stroud is starting to develop as a quarterback, he'll have more time by the time he plays at the end of the year. That passing game, you see Olave, that's one team I think could give Georgia a little trouble with the way those styles meet. But I don't know if Ohio State will get there. So that's just my only other one besides Bama. But that's about it for me.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio State does have the explosive offense to where they could probably give them some trouble. I just don't know. I really think a lot of people focused on Stroud in the beginning of the year, but I really think it's that defense that has kind of let them down week in and week out. And it's a combination of the two, obviously, right? Because Stroud didn't look great early and he's getting more comfortable, but they're going to have to win out. If they're going to want to get mentioned, and they'll probably get the nod over some of these smaller schools. But if we see them in the Big Ten championship with Iowa, they're going to have to win, and I think win convincingly there. And
Oregon's not helping them right now. They barely beat Cal. They lost to a 1-5 Stanford team. Oregon's not helping Ohio State. I got it.
Absolutely.
Pac-12. Pac-12. You don't ever want to lose to a Pac-12 team.
No,
you might as well. I'll tell you what, you might as well flip a coin betting those games, man, because you have no idea what's going to go on it. Once it hits like 10 o'clock at night Eastern time, it's just chaos. You have no idea what's happening last night. Cal obviously got the cover. A lot of fun. Rachel, before we let you go here, I just want to know, is there any best bets out there that you like today, or are we just pushing all our chips in on the over in UGA and Kentucky?
Oh, man, like I was telling you before the show started, I was like, man, my brain is so foggy this morning. I got about 2 hours of sleep last night, and I'm trying to think of the bets that I took last night. And TCU is playing is it Oklahoma, right?
Yeah, that's a big one.
Definitely. I took the over in that one. I think it was 60? I think it was.
That's 61 now, I think. But yeah, right on.
I felt like that was just low. I feel like I know TCU is no good, but that new quarterback for OU, I'm excited to watch that game. And who is Texas playing?
Texas playing Oklahoma State. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another over people might want to look into, because I mean, you always look at the over whenever it's Big 12 matchups, right? But Texas, man, they could put up 70 points a game, like we've seen it. So, and why not against Okie State? So, just off the top of my head, I like those.
Awesome. And, listen, Texas can let up a lot of points, too, as we saw last week. What an insane game that was. Being in Texas, what was real quick, just, 30 seconds or whatnot, what was the feeling? How disappointed are they? Like, they might be an actual fade coming up this weekend just because such an emotional letdown.
I'll just tell you how the first half went, right? Texas is back. And then the second half was everyone else going, Texas is back. Texas is back. Texas is not obviously what it used to be, and they're almost just a running joke by Longhorns fans and everyone else too. It's just, I don't know, they're just kind of funny to make fun of at this point. And as a University of Houston alumni, you love to see it. Tom Herman, if you ever want to come back, we'll take you.
Absolutely love it.
He's a free agent.
Yep, absolutely. So, Rachel, thank you so much for joining us. Before you get out of here, let everybody know all the work you're doing, where they can follow you, how they can follow your content.
Absolutely. I post everything that I do just about on Twitter, or at least clips of it. So just give me a follow on Twitter or Instagram. It's at GameDayOJ, at GameDayOJ on Instagram, at GameDayOHJ on Twitter. But here locally in Houston, I do the Houston Sports Show. It's one part television show, Saturday nights on the CW39. And then on the radio, Sunday mornings on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck and continued success. We are pulling for your Bulldogs. You'll have to come back and join us another time later in the season.
You know, I will. Absolutely. Go Stros.
All right. Thanks, Rachel. Dave, always love having Rachel on, man. She is one of the best out there doing what she's doing. Very inspiring to me just to see her ascension, and she's doing TV and now she's doing radio. Just an incredible follow. So everybody out there, if you're listening, Rachel does an awesome job on props as well. You want to give her a follow and check out her shows, all the things that she's doing out there. Just tremendous. But I meant everything I said. I'm not just gassing her up because she is a guest. I really like the Georgia Bulldogs. We talked about it 2 weeks ago. I think that they are built to be national champions this season, but there's a lot of season to go. We know that, right? Chaos every single week, Dave. So, what are your thoughts just on, before we transition over to some more bets, just on Georgia and the quarterback situation and how important it is for them to get Daniels healthy?
Yeah, it's super important, obviously, because he brings an added dimension. We talked about the other week when they did play Arkansas, and I think Bennett threw 11 times, 7 completions, and they still dominated the game. Can't do that versus these better teams. And when I mean better, you got Florida coming up. You got Tennessee coming up on the horizon. Those are 2 very explosive teams. They're going to need him back for those games. It's my full belief. You can win on defense all you want. There's going to be a game that you're going to need to win a game on offense. So I don't think – I'm hearing he's probably not playing today. Did you see yet JT Daniels?
I did not. But
yeah, they're
I
still
didn't get the
doubtful.
status on that. I probably should have asked Rachel. She probably would have known. But I agree. I think that is the longer that Bennett has to play, the more teams are going to be able to kind of key on his weaknesses, and it's going to get a little more challenging. But they're the biggest bully in the schoolyard, man, physically, and that's what I love to see. Me, old school, probably dating myself, but love to see these tough physical teams that win with defense.
And I agree. And I told you before the year, Georgia was my one team I put money on to make the playoffs. They were plus 600 or 550, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just really, talking to a couple of guys in the business, they were giving me the insight about how good they are defensively. I don't even think anybody could have predicted this level of goodness, right? They're 5.5
they're
points
monsters,
per game.
man.
5 points a game.
They are
It's
absolute
amazing.
monsters, man. I don't see how Kentucky scores them. Like I said, implied score in that game is like 34.5 to 10.5. So like that's, you got a 44 total. There's not going to be a lot of scoring. I would be surprised they get shut out today. I don't know how they generate any offense. I don't think Rodriguez is going to be able to do anything on the ground for Kentucky. And, that's really going to be the name of the game. But let's get into some more winners, Dave. Talk about tough physical defenses. Pittsburgh was one of them last year, but they've kind of changed their identity. Now, with a vaunted passing attack, Pickett getting a lot of, putting everybody on notice and really getting a lot of love as far as, his prospect as, moving on to the next level in the NFL. They're laying 5 points against a Virginia Tech team coming off, their game against Notre Dame. How do you see this one unfolding?
Yeah, and again, not to toot any horns, but when we did our ACC preview, Pitt was my dark horse to win that side of the division. 10-1, you could have got them at. Right now, they look like the considerable favorites. They're and today's going to go a long way in that. And I am still riding the Pitt train. I just think Kenny Pickett. You talked about it. 19 TDs to 1 interception. He's got this kind of like backdoor Heisman talk going on. I mean, if you want to take some long odds, I think it's still. I mean, they'd have to win the ACC and things of that sort for him to even get invited to New York. I think it's a long, long shot, but it still might have some value there, especially while you're playing Pitt. Like you said, oh, my goodness, they're averaging 52.4 points per game. Now, I know some of it's against UMass and Fordham, but they haven't had a game this year that they scored under 42 yet. They're a solid offensive team. Their defense gets lit up a little bit in the air. That's a factor of Pat Narduzzi being very aggressive, leading his quarterbacks on an island. But when you go up against a Virginia Tech team who has Braxton Burmeister at quarterback, who is averaging 328 total yards a game, which is 116th in the nation on 130 teams, you're going against the perfect recipe. And we go back to the styles making matchups. You have an explosive offense that can score all day, and I think Virginia Tech is not going to slow them down. And you have a bad defense, but they're going against a bad offense, and I don't think can keep up. And in that sense, Virginia Tech, here's the key number for you. When they end up 27 or less, they're 4-0 this year. If you get over 27 against them, they're 0-2. And that heartbreak game against Notre Dame last week, when they just let them come down, Jack Cohn coming back into the game after he was benched, I think that does a lot. It's hard to rebound. We're going to talk about Texas and other teams that lost heartbreakers last week. I think it's being tough for the Hokies to, they got their UNC win, right? That was big, but we see what UNC is now, especially after losing to Florida State. Tech lost at West Virginia. West Virginia hasn't won since. That's been about a month. They almost lost to Richmond at home. That's their 3 wins. It's not very good. Pitt, on the other hand, I think they're primed. They're ready. They take advantage of this season. Kenny Pickett's the senior. The whole offense is like fifth-year seniors. It's experience. This is their one shot. I think they're going to take advantage. I'll take them. The Panthers on the road against the demoralized Tech Hokies, minus the 4.5.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I mean, I always look to fade teams off emotional games. You know what I mean? And that loss last week was just a tough one. And then you have all the crazy stuff going on with the quarterback, with he's taking pills on the sidelines. What are they giving him? What's going on? He's banged up. He's not that good when he's healthy. Now he's banged up. What are they going to do from that perspective? So I like Pitt there as well, laying the points. Great play there, Dave. I'm going to get into my best bet today. I'm going to drop one out, and that is UCLA and Chip Kelly tonight taking on the Washington Huskies. The Washington Huskies were a team a lot of people had targeted Phil Steele very big on, thought they'd be a surprise team, and those people who bet them to do well this year are surprised because the Huskies have been pretty poor offensively. And I think this is another matchup, Dave, that, it's all about, what teams do well against, what their opponents do well, and how does that mesh in the game? Styles make fights, and you look at this UCLA team, and they want to run the ball, right? DTR trash this year. I think he's banged up. I think something's going on there, but they're just going to lean on the run game, and they're going to be able to do it against the Washington defense that is outside of the top 100 nationally, right? They let up 343 yards to Michigan. They let up over 200 yards rushing to Oregon State. Everybody runs on this Washington defense, and Chip Kelly is sitting there salivating, licking his chops. Can't wait to pound the run and beat this team up physically. I think it's going to happen, so I think they're going to score points. The other side of the ball, is Washington going to be able to score against UCLA defense? I'm not that high on UCLA defense, but where are they weak? It's the secondary. It's letting up those explosive plays. That is not in Washington's DNA. That's not in their offense. Morris can't do that. They're not an explosive team at all. The offense is just broken at this point. Morris has 6 interceptions on the season, so he's going to turn the ball over when pressured. UCLA does a pretty decent job at getting after the quarterback, so I think they're going to have some success here. So I'm taking the short number with UCLA here. I think they win this game outright against the Washington Huskies.
Yeah, another one, man, the side for me is UCLA for sure. I just don't know what you're getting out of Washington right now. And I'm with you. Like that's when you say, like, if you have that clear vision of what Washington is, it's similar to what we talked about with Clemson earlier in the show. Take advantage. Jump on the Chip Kelly train. They're 4-2. This is a big game in their season, a big opportunity for them to, position themselves well for the end of the season and have a good bowl game. So I like the side. That's the side I would lean.
And again, if you look at it like from a bettor's perspective, right, the market, UCLA comes out, looks very impressive earlier. The market gets real high on UCLA. Then they disappoint everybody. Now they move this way, right? So now the market's going this way. So when they zig, we zag. That's how we take home the bag. I'm taking UCLA. Yeah. And I think they're going to cash in tonight.
If you remember their recent road game after one of their zigs, they went to Stanford and won easily. So it feels like a similar. What they lose last week to? No, it wasn't last week.
They beat Arizona, but it was very uninspiring.
It was 2 weeks ago they lost to Arizona State. But yeah, this is a big game. This is one on the schedule at the beginning of the year. You probably would have said Washington 5 or 6 point favorites. That's a 1 point game. Yeah, I like your angle.
Yeah, all right, I'll take UCLA on the road here. But let's wrap things up. Let's give the people one more pick, Dave, that they can cash in on today.
I will, and it's an awesome game. I can't wait to see this one. I will also tell everyone out there, I have a handful of leans. You're probably going to see me post one or two on Twitter as well, so follow that. Keep an eye out for that. Like we said earlier, the card is chock full of really good games. You got a Missouri team that's 0-6 against the spread. Keep an eye on that one. That spread has moved 4 points. We'll get into some of the stuff on Twitter. But to wrap up this show, let's go to the big one. You talked about points. You like points, right? UCLA,
yes,
Washington.
I do.
Let's go to Tennessee, Ole Miss. And this is the – oh, man, I can't wait to watch this. I'm getting my popcorn ready for this. This is the Lane Kiffin Returns to Tennessee show. He sat up there on a press conference on the pedestal platform and said, I love this place. Tennessee is for me. Knoxville's for me. Packed his bags, ran away a couple weeks later over to USC. They hate this guy. They can't forgive him. Knoxville is going to be lit up, angry, and they're ready. They're ready for his return tonight, and I like Tennessee. I think, Lane can do all he wants. We love Lane. He can pump up his team. He can get them ready, but he's not playing that game. Those kids are going to be – it's a tough situation for them. And then when you look at these two teams, everybody thinks, Matt Carroll, they pass all day. Matt Carroll's fantastic. 12 TDs, no interceptions. But he's actually leads the SEC in rushing touchdowns with 8. This is where I'm getting at. These two teams are 5th and 6th nationally, respectively, in run offense. They both run the ball very effectively. Now, part of that, it comes down to the quarterback game. I get it. The quarterbacks are rushing for, a decent amount of yards for both of them with Hendon Hooker out of Tennessee and Corral out of Ole Miss. But that just tells me, so where's the matchup that I want to exploit? And that's Ole Miss's rush defense. They're 108th nationally against the run. They are letting up a ton of yards in that game. I think Tennessee can really physically match Ole Miss, and I think they can imply their will at the line of scrimmage. I think they're going to be fired up. I think this is a game that they've been circled for a while. We love Ole Miss. We really do, and it's hard for me to go against them. But I just think this matchup, this is one for Tennessee. This is one for the fans. Josh Heupel, if he doesn't win another one the rest of the year, they'll be okay because they're pumped. And then if you look at SP Plus, one of the rankings that I keep an eye on, Tennessee is the better team per SP Plus, has a slightly higher ranking. And you're talking about Ole Miss, who was ranked, 13th in the nation, Tennessee unranked. Just tells me something. Take the points, plus 2.5. Fight up to 3 if you want, but it's an outright. Tennessee with a win at home tonight.
I love it. I mean, this is going to be one of my favorite games to watch this weekend because the whole story behind Lane in Tennessee and how they left him, how he got fired. They were like, he's like, don't wear the black uniforms. And he's like, okay. They come out in the black uniforms.
He wanted to get fired. Yep.
I love Lane Kiffin. I'll be pulling for him, but hopefully he gets a 1-point win so you can get your cash as well. That way everybody wins. But it's going to be such a fun game, man. And this matchup, I think both teams have had circled on their calendar all year, so cannot wait. But Dave, before we get out of here, our guy Arroyo wants to check in on Fresno State. Headed to Wyoming today, laying 3.5 in that matchup. I think Wyoming is always a tough place to play. I did not dig into this matchup too much, but Wyoming, it's always weird things happen in Wyoming. You get the elevation there. It's a little bit tough. It's a 3:30 game Eastern time, right? So it's a little bit early, I think, for Fresno State. What do you think about that short number, them going to Wyoming? I would probably lay off Fresno, maybe bet the under in that one, to be honest. But not a game that I looked into too much, but that would be my initial lean. We got a total of 53.5, got bet down from 56 at the open, and I think it's for good reason.
Yeah, I mean, some of the implied odds, if I would have probably looked at a line opening, it probably would have been around 5. So now you're getting 3.5. I got 3 on DraftKings earlier. I would probably lean Fresno. I think Fresno went out, I can't believe how they lost the Hawaii game the other weekend. I went to bed thinking that thing's over, and they just completely crumbled. Yeah. And
they went to bed early.
It's a dangerous spot. Obviously, like you said, Wyoming can be a very, very tough place to play, surprisingly. The famous Wyoming quarterback, obviously, who could be NFL MVP this year, right? Josh Allen. That's the one thing I remember about Wyoming. But other than that, they haven't made much of a mark since then. I lean Fresno because I just think you're getting a little bit value. Like I said, when I look at the lines, I would came up with around 5 and you get 3. But it's not a play for me. It's not. I just there's other better games out there. So I would lay off it, Arroyo. Just try and get that dub and enjoy it.
Yeah, root for your boys as a fan this weekend because weird things happen in Wyoming. It's a strange place. I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. If I played it, I'd play it to the under.
States? Is Wyoming in the United States?
It is like good for like horror movies, and that's about it. Like, you know what I mean? But it's a strange place. Love all our people out in Wyoming, though.
Yeah,
they're all great people. It's just there's some bizarre games when you watch them, man. It's a tough place to play, and that's a credit to their fans because going up there in elevation and with that crowd, and it's usually starts snowing very early in the season, so weird stuff happens in Wyoming. So stay away from that one. Enjoy it as a fan, Arroyo. But listen, that is going to do it for us. I want to thank Lexi behind the scenes, getting everything done for us. Did a tremendous job today. She'll be back with us next week. We'll bring her on to talk about Michigan on the bye week this week. I want to thank Rachael Van Oranje. Make sure you go follow her, guys. She is a tremendous follow for everything sports betting, super entertaining. Her content is just incredible, so go follow her. Want to thank everybody for listening, guys. We'll be back every week spitting out these winners, having fun with the college football season. Join us in the Sharp app Discord, the free Discord. The link is in the description. Go in there, bet with us, sweat with us, collect with us. That's what we're all about, getting that money, but the camaraderie in that Discord, it's popping every Saturday of all the sports bettors enjoying the games, everybody in our community out there sweating these games out, exchanging information, having fun, watching the whole card. It starts at noon and it goes all the way till midnight. Everybody's in there betting, having a good time, which is exactly what we're all about. We will be back next week. Cannot wait. Good luck to everybody. Hope everybody cashes in. Have a great Sunday and Saturday and a very profitable one. We'll see you guys next week.